Yo, back for another weekend of racing. And when I say weekend, I mean weekend. This is the Tour de Murrieta down in Murrieta, California. It was a cold morning. It was like 46 degrees. But it's 2 day Omnium, 2 point sprints in the criterium, which we're in right now. As you can see in the top right hand corner, it's a 6 corner crit with an 800-meter long sprint out of the last turn. So sometimes jumping early out of the corner is not always the best option. Sometimes it is if you got the power to hold it. Um, this is the last few laps that I recorded. I had gone for the first point preem and got it, so um, um, that was 5 points. And then Kevin in the purple and black in front of me there, he got second, so he got 3 points. But then he got the second point preem, and so now he's technically the leader of the race. And we are in a combined field with the 55s and the 50s. I decided to race the 50s, even though I'm 55 age group, so that we could diversify our team a bit, and so Bart could go for the 55s, and then I could go for the 50s. Um, my fitness is finally coming around quite a bit, so I was feeling pretty good about today. So um, I definitely need to finish well in the sprint. We do have a breakaway up the road right now, which has our teammate Patrick in. Oh no, he hasn't gone yet. He's there right in front of me to the left. So they must go on the last lap or just before the last lap. But a break of four guys go off, and they were all 55s, I believe, except for one guy that was Adam Bano. And but we gave Patrick his opportunity. We're not going to chase a teammate down. So we were just, if he got brought back, we were just hoping that the other guys would bring him back. It's been a pretty fast race, up until this point. I think we averaged 26.5 miles per hour, which uh, doesn't seem like it's too fast, but on this course in the cold weather, it was pretty fast. I mean, it never really bunched up a lot. We stayed on the gas quite a bit on this race. We did have a pretty solid team with us. We had a good solid team of guys in the 55s. We had Bart, of course, and Scott Cochran. Um, in the 50s, we had Octay, myself, Patrick Fetzer, Jorge Hernandez. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting. Oh, Paul Chia. So we had a solid team, and our goal was to not let the breakaway riders get away, unless we had a guy in it, which ended up working in our favor because we had a guy in the break. Patrick ended up getting second in the race. And in the 55s, there was three guys in the break, so Bart was going to get fourth or fifth, I think, uh, which wasn't ideal for us, but it is what it is. It was a long race, and we still had point preems to go for, so you can. This race is actually won on the point preems because you get 5 points each point preem, but you get 30 points for winning the race. But each placing under 30 is 1 point down. So if you get fourth place, you're still getting 26 points. Plus, if you get 2 point preems, that gives you 36. So then you still have more points than the guy who won the race. So the trick is to go for the point preems, and I was way out of position on the second one, which I'm kicking myself for. But sometimes you just have to make that game time decision of just sitting in and saving your legs, because I could have crushed myself to get up there and tried to scrape for a couple of points, which I sort of did, but then I kind of eased up because I realized I wasn't going to get it, and kind of a bummer. Um, but I knew it was still a long weekend. The circuit race also has 2 point preems. Um, which I did not record and I wish I had because those ended up being pretty exciting. Um, After this race is over, my camera feed is immediately going to jump over to the circuit race and show the last lap of the circuit race, which ended up being pretty dynamic also. It was a really good weekend. The stage two Bosch team really did a great job putting this race on. There's Larry Tonzo right there on my right on the PRT team. He was also there was three of us in the 50s that were vying for the actually should say four of us. That's Adam Bano in the black there. He's a breakaway specialist, and Larry and Kevin, of course, are the sprinters. So I'm definitely staying near the front because if anything happens, it's going to be from these two. And Pat Caro there on the left, he had an amazing weekend. Just very smart racing. He ended up attacking right there, and Bart's definitely marking him because he's in a 55, so he's a dangerous rider. And he had already taken the point preem early on, so he's already got a 5 point lead on Bart. We have just a couple laps to go here. Trying to see where that brake went off. There's Patrick. Okay, so it must be going off here pretty quick because Patrick launches and follows a move. There goes Mike Morrison. So that's a dangerous move right there. Um, that's his MO. He's a breakaway specialist. He'll usually wait till there's a lull in the field like this, and then he'll launch off the front. Um, we kind of all knew that. I mean, you ride pretty strong and you win a few races that way, and you kind of develop a reputation, and you kind of have a little bit of a target on your back. And Michael's definitely one of those guys where danger bells go off when he goes off the front. And as a compliment to him, he and Pat Caro and Adam Bano were the three guys that we knew that would be our most dangerous guys to go off in a break. Also guys like John Nist from Monster Media. Um, these guys are dangerous. If they get a little bit of a leash, and they're rolling up the road right now, and we do have our guys. There was one point going into the last few laps. The last lap, I should say, when our teammate Scott Cochran went to the front and he was going to pull it back, and Bart had told him not to because, okay, there goes Pat. Then there goes Patrick. Okay, so that's where the move goes. I think that's Ruben. Now everybody's starting to get on it a little bit. So the pace is definitely picking up. 2 laps to go. Yeah. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why Pat Caro didn't go with that break and he ended up sitting up. I don't know if maybe he had cooked his legs from the earlier sprints, but Um, it didn't really matter because he still did really well this weekend, and I'll get into that when we get to the circuit race because that's where he really shined too. But we're full on the gas right now because we're going into Bell Lap next lap. This was the only right-hand turn of the race was right here. But you can see the roads were wide and smooth. This stretch on the back stretch was just kind of a slight downhill, and then the finishing stretch was just a slight uphill. There's Aaron Levin on the front. Bart's jumping in behind Larry. It's a good spot because all the sprinters are starting to form at the front. I didn't realize it, but um, Ryan Doris was also here from Big Orange, and I hadn't seen him all race. And all of a sudden, at the last stretch, he just popped up out of nowhere. He must have been just chilling in the back until the sprint. My guys that I have to worry about are definitely Kevin and Larry right there, and those two have been just marking each other. So I'm going to follow them because all the ideal thing would have been having our team do a full gas lead out, but they were pretty cooked from chasing moves and going in breaks themselves. So yeah, there's Ryan Doris right in front of me. So there he is. He popped up out of nowhere. One to go. There's Rob Campila. So I got a little bit pushed out here, but I'm not gonna panic because it's pretty easy to move up. Uh, Pace is pretty high right now, so I gotta try to get around. I take the inside line here and move up about 3 places just in one turn. So now I'm right where I want to be, and I'm okay following Rob. Rob's a good wheel. He punches a big hole through the wind, and he knows how to ride his bike. So I'm not worried about following Rob, but I definitely want to be up on Larry and Kevin because Kevin's MO is a long sprint. He's a track racer. He's really good at getting on top of a gear and holding it. And if you give him even an inch, um, you've got to be with him when he jumps. And my mistake is letting a couple other people get behind him and me not being on his wheel. The only way I would have been able to beat him today is if I was right on his wheel. And those guys were, Larry was fighting for his wheel pretty good. So as we come out of this turn, you see it's a really long sprint. And the breakaway was right in front of us, so I couldn't launch early myself because then we would have taken a chance of catching Patrick. So um, and see Kevin's already jumped and see the gap that he puts on Larry. That was the difference. And then Ryan's right next to me, so I got pushed out of the draft. So now I got to get back in the draft here, and then get back on top of my gear. And then by the time I do, it's too late. And so I end up finishing right behind these guys. Um, so I ended up sixth on the day, plus a point cream. So that put me in third place, 4 points out of the lead, right behind Kevin. Adam Bano won the race in the 50s because he was in the breakaway. And and then Larry Tanzo and myself. So I'm tied for third place with two guys, and then Adam's in second and Kevin's in first. So now we're going to roll over to the circuit race, and here we are going into the circuit race, and we're on the back side of the course now, going over the bridge, going into the false flat. Um, there's a few guys in this race that didn't race yesterday, and there's a small group right in front of us off the front. Um, and they weren't a danger to us because they didn't race yesterday, and none of the guys in the break had any points except for Pat Caro. So Pat Caro had gone early in the race and soloed in for the first point preem in the 55s, and I ended up winning the first point preem in the 50s. So I closed up to actually I'm the race leader at that point. I had jumped up 1 point onto Kevin, so I had 35 to his 34. Then I was really out of position on the second sprint, and that's where I screwed. That's where I lost this race. That and Kevin beat me handily in the sprint. I couldn't. I'll get into that when we get closer to the finish. But Kevin had won the second point preem, and also got the second place point preem in the first sprint. So um, Yeah, so he was actually still in the lead. And then after he got the second point for him, he's like definitely in the lead. And I was way back then. So I was back five more points. And that breakaway was just dangling in front of us. And I thought everybody would pull him back. These are some dropped riders from the 35-45 race. So we passed them. And we're kind of going up a little false flat here, which was the hardest part of the course because it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't steep. It was like maybe 3 or 4%. And then we make this right turn here. We pop over this little riser, and then it's just a full-on drag race down the backstretch to the final turns, which the final turns of this race is more like a criterium than a circuit race. But the backside here is just open, wide open rolling roads. And as you can see, I'm coasting at 34, 35 miles an hour. Um, I definitely want to stay in the front. There goes Octay. He's going to go up and put a hard pace on. There's Evan Teskey. He was a guest rider with us today. Multiple national champion, super fast, strong racer. Hasn't been racing his bike much, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he off off of not racing at all, just jumped on his bike and was riding at the front the whole race. So definitely a talented rider, and he helped us out a lot. There's Kevin. I definitely want to be near him. I made the same. See, Larry's just glued to his wheel. So, and Larry's a gentleman. He's a nice guy. I'm not gonna fight and push him off of Kevin's wheel. That's just not my style. I still felt strong. I felt confident enough in my sprint that if I got a good jump, I wanted to jump early and take that last stretch before the final turn because the race is literally to the final turn because the sprint is so short. If you nail that jump that turn coming out and you just keep your momentum going, that it's just a couple pedal strokes and you're already to the finish. So um, I've always done well in this sprint and this finish, and I've done that by going early. And so that was my plan, but um, Kevin had the same plan, and he jumped right out of the final turn. I mean the second to last turn, and I usually wait until we get out of the turn and get up to speed a little bit, and then I launch almost immediately. But it just didn't quite work out that way. Larry was between us, and when Kevin jumped, um, he opened up a pretty big gap between me and Kevin, and I had to go around Larry. And then at that point, it was too late. Kevin got to the turn first and just didn't quite have enough to get him and come around him. So there's Evan. He's keeping a nice steady pace. Um, try to keep us safe through these last couple turns. Um, Stage two guy attacked early, and there's Bart. Bart knows this finish very well too. There's Kevin. So I got right where I want to be right here. So now I'm on Kevin's wheel, and so Larry must be right behind me. Here's where I screwed up. I mean, I'm like in the prime position right here. I don't know how I screwed up and right here, see? And then Larry slid. That's where I screwed up. I should have went outside and stayed on Kevin's wheel. And I realize now that so I've got to burn a match to get back up there because I know this is where the race is going to be. And Larry's not going to let Kevin's wheel go. So I see a swarm coming up on my left shoulder. As everybody knows, this is the final turn to the finish line, and I kind of stay to the left. I move left just to protect our corner here, and then I bounce back in. And my plan was to just take this corner and just launch it. And I hesitated, and Kevin launches immediately, and then Larry goes with him. and it kind of caught me with my pants down a little bit. And see the gap he opened on Larry, and so I kind of realized I'm screwed now. So I go around Larry and get close to Kevin. I want to just carry my speed through this turn and just rail this turn as safe as I can, and hopefully I can get some momentum. I got a little bit of momentum, but by that it's just too late. I realized that the finish line's right there, so I had no chance of catching Kevin. So kudos to Kevin. He was definitely the strongest rider of the weekend. Pat Caro ended up being the winning the